Let me ask you something real quick. Is your money silently shrinking right now? Most of us work incredibly hard for our paychecks, and there's this great sense of accomplishment when we finally move some of that cash over into a savings account. We think it's safe. We think it's secure. But what if I told you that by simply letting your dormant money sit there, it's actually losing value every single day?
Welcome to this explainer. I am beyond thrilled to guide you through this material today because, honestly, we are talking about your financial awakening. We're going to completely break down how the modern banking system actually works behind the scenes, expose the hidden forces that are quietly eating away at your hard-earned savings, and most importantly, we're going to give you the exact tools you need to take control of your personal finances and start escaping these wealth killers today.
All right, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll be measuring your net worth, exposing the hidden wealth killers, looking at how banks profit off you, checking out the high-yield solution, discussing wealth building with index funds, and finally, laying out your financial action plan. Let's jump in.
Section 1. Measuring your net worth. So before we can actually build wealth, we have to measure it, right? We define net worth simply as the total value of everything you own, your assets, minus everything you owe, your liabilities. Think of it as a snapshot of your financial health at this exact moment in time. Your assets are things like your cash savings, your investments, maybe the market value of your home or car. And your liabilities? Those are your debts, things like credit card balances, student loans, or your mortgage. You just subtract what you owe from what you own, and boom, that number is your net worth. It's essentially the ultimate scoreboard for your personal finances.
Now, check this out. It is fascinating to see how the 50th percentile of earners stack up across different ages. According to data from the Federal Reserve, if you're under 35, the median net worth is $39,000. Between 35 and 44, it jumps to $135,600. And if you're between 45 and 54, it sits at $247,200. And unsurprisingly, this number tends to rise as we get older, mainly because people are advancing in their careers, paying down their debts, and really benefiting from the compounding growth of their investments.
Now, you might be wondering, why do we use the median instead of the average here? Well, if we use the average net worth, the data would include extreme outliers, the ultra-wealthy, the billionaires, and that heavily skews the reality of everyday finances. The median actually shows us the true middle ground. It's a much more useful and realistic way to see how your wealth compares to other folks in your age bracket.
Section 2. The hidden wealth killers.
Take a look at this tiny number, 0.01%. It's shockingly low, right? But this is actually the standard annual percentage yield, or APY, that a typical big brick-and-mortar bank pays you on your everyday savings deposits. It's practically nothing. They hand you this tiny fraction of a percent like it's some sort of gift just for keeping your money safe with them.
But now, contrast that microscopic payout with this number, 3.0%. This represents a standard average annual inflation rate, and inflation is just the rate at which the price of everyday goods and services increases over time. It's the exact reason why your weekly groceries or a tank of gas cost noticeably more this year than they did last year.
So the really crucial point here is the hidden tax math. Let's walk through it. Say you start with $1,000 in a traditional big bank. After one whole year at that 0.01% rate, you earn a grand total of 10 cents in interest. Yay! Meanwhile, inflation is running at 3%, meaning the cost of living went up, so that same $1,000 now buys $30 less worth of actual goods. The net result? You are effectively $29.90 poorer. The number in your account didn't drop. You didn't spend a dime of it, but your money's purchasing power quietly shrank. Literally, by just letting your money sit safely in a traditional bank, you're actively losing wealth.
Section 3. How banks profit off you.
You're probably thinking, how did they get away with this? Well, here's what happens behind the scenes. When you deposit your cash, the bank doesn't just lock it in a vault. Banks are financial intermediaries. Through a system called fractional reserve banking, they only hold a very small fraction of your deposit in reserve, just enough to cover normal everyday withdrawals. And the rest? They lend your money out to other customers for mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, often charging 6% interest, or actually, scratch that, usually way more than 6%. Then they turn around, pay you your tiny 0.01% and keep the difference. This difference is known as the net interest spread, and it is absolutely the core profit engine of modern banking. Your deposits are literally the cheap fuel they use to generate massive profits for themselves.
Section 4. The high-yield solution.
But the good news is you don't have to play a losing game. The solution is super practical. It's a high-yield savings account, or HYSA.
This is essentially the exact same concept as a regular savings account, but the interest rate is on a whole different level. Right now, HYSAs are offering yields in the range of 4 to 5%. How? Because they're usually offered by online-only banks. They don't have to pay for thousands of physical branches, tellers, or, fancy marble lobbies. And because their overhead is so low, they pass those savings directly to you. And yes, they are incredibly safe. They carry the exact same FDIC insurance as your big bank, which means your money is fully protected by the U.S. government up to $250,000. The only real trade-off is access. Withdrawals typically take about 1 to 3 business days to transfer to your checking account rather than being instantaneous.
Let's look at these two realities side by side, because it's pretty staggering. If you leave $1,000 in a big bank for a year, you earn a dime. One single dime. If you move it to a high-yield savings account at 4.5%, you earn $45. I mean, an HYSA pays out 450 times more money than a big bank, and you are doing absolutely nothing differently. It immediately flips the math, so your safe cash is finally fighting back against inflation.
Section 5. Wealth Building. Index Funds.
Once you've protected your cash, it's time to build wealth. I absolutely love this analogy. Instead of guessing which individual fruit will be the tastiest, you just buy the whole basket. It perfectly explains diversification without using any confusing Wall Street jargon. Imagine walking into a grocery store wanting the best fruit, but you aren't sure if the apples, mangoes, or strawberries are going to be the best this season. So instead of guessing and risking picking a bad batch, you just buy the whole basket. That is exactly what an index fund does with the stock market. A prime example of this is an S&P 500 index fund. When you invest in this, you're not trying to pick the next winning stock. You're buying a single investment that holds tiny pieces of the 500 largest publicly traded companies in the US. Apple, Google, Walmart, all in one shot. If a few companies have a rough year, the hundreds of other companies keep the basket afloat. That built-in diversification is incredibly powerful. Plus, because these funds are just tracking a list, their operating fees, which are known as expense ratios, are shockingly low. We're talking sometimes as little as 0.03%. Now, obviously, the stock market will always have short-term ups and downs, but historically, the S&P 500 has trended upward over long periods. This makes index funds the ultimate growth engine for money you don't plan to touch for 5 years or more.
So ultimately, these two tools aren't competitors. They are teammates. The high-yield savings is your safe harbor. It has virtually zero risk, allows fast access, and shields your short-term cash from that hidden tax of inflation. The index fund, on the other hand, is your growth engine. It carries moderate short-term volatility, sure, but it does the heavy lifting of building serious compounding wealth over decades. You really need both to win the game.
Section 6. Your Financial Action Plan.
All right, let's turn all this into a straightforward 2-step plan you can use right now. Step 1. Open a high-yield savings account. Use this to establish your liquid emergency safety net. You really want to aim to save 3 to 6 months' worth of living expenses. This ensures you never have to go into high-interest debt when a surprise bill hits. Step 2. Once that safety net is funded, open a brokerage account with a reputable firm and start channeling your extra money into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Even if you start with just $50 a month, getting that growth engine running is what will completely transform your financial future.
Look, knowing the mechanics of money is just step 1. Most people spend their entire lives letting their hard-earned cash sit in a traditional bank, quietly funding someone else's profits while losing out to inflation. But now you know exactly how the system works, and you know how to flip it in your favor. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to spark your financial awakening. Which step are you taking today to stop your money from silently shrinking? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to take that first step right now.